Welcome. I'm Doc T. To my left, or your right, is Dr. Justin Westbrook, and the other side is Dr. David Dionson. I got it right this time.
You got it right this time.
All right. These are two associates. We all work at SHARC. There we go. We're going to jump into a case study right off the bat. So Dr. Westbrook came in this morning, Dr. J, asking about an MRI for a patient of his that's going to be competing in a high rocks event in about a month. So looking over the MRI, we kind of just wondering back and forth and got a little nerdy on it, which tissue it is and what's that and what's this and so forth. And his question, which is a common question for athletes in any way, shape, or form, is, am I going to make it? It's 4 weeks away. I'm improving, right? But I'm still having pain, fill in the blank, doing this, that, or the other. So am I going to be able to compete or not? So we had a nice little discussion about it. And while we're talking about it, setting up to do this, we're like, we should probably talk about this. That would be a great one. So all those high rocks athletes out there, there is a way. Oh, for the love of God. Preparation. Preparing not to fail. Preparing not to fail. And a whole bunch of... Oh, my Lord.
There you go. Sorry, let's restart that one.
Anyway, so do the athletes out there, the high rocks athletes, or any athletes actually, when you're coming to an event, come on, marathoners, triathletes, people that generally have to train for weeks to months on end for one event, the chance of getting injured, hurt, having pain is pretty high. So we're with this client. So Justin asked me that. Justin, go ahead and give us a little background on her age, which is interesting on this one too.
Yeah, so we got a 60-year-old female, very active. She works out 5 times a week, whether it's strength training, high rocks training, doing running, walking, hiking, anything like that. So she was training to compete for a high rocks, and she started to have pain in the back of her knee. And then she started to have pain in the medial side of the knee. When she came to me, her pain was about a 4 out of 5 out of 10. She could work through it. Typically, the pain gets better the further she gets into a workout.
Okay.
And the movements that hurt her the most are the burpee broad jump. So
Let's hurt everybody. That's not fair.
yeah, burpee broad jumps are incredibly hard. And
I have
really
a sidebar. Have to interject this one. For my 40th birthday, there's a, I'm not going to say his name, but he's an older man, older than me, and I was 40, he was 47, and I told him my 40th birthday is coming up this weekend. He's like, oh, I'll meet you at the track on Saturday morning. I was like, for what? And he goes, 400 meters of burpee broad jumps for your 40th birthday. And I'm like, I'm in great shape. We'll be fine. That was the dumbest thing I ever did in my life. That was a horrible thing. That was bad. Anyway.
Now they took that and made it a competition.
Oh, God.
Terrible.
We might have to do a clinic competition on that one just for poor David.
No, I would die.
well, you forgot about one, but I'm not gonna bring that up.
Oh, I did forget about that one.
Yep.
That was my birthday.
Yep.
Tell you what, I'll still beat Dan. That's our resident high rock / massage therapist, Dan. Anyway, continue. So we got burpee broad jump, which for those that aren't familiar, what it means is you fall to the ground like a burpee. You go to get up, plant your feet, and then you jump forward basically as far as you can, which is self-limiting, of course, but it's a very dynamic activity, especially for the back of the knee. So go ahead.
Yeah, so she presents with fullness in the knee, no popping or clicking in the knee, and again, pain and deep flexion. She gets an MRI because she works in a radiology clinic, and get an MRI for free. That's crazy. And the results show that she had a gastroc origin strain, wasn't completely torn, but there was an injury there. And she also had a bone stress response in the medial tibial plateau and a bone stress response in the medial femoral condyle. So she comes to me and she's like...
Just 1 second. I'm so sorry.
Go for it.
Can you explain what those tissues are? Because people out there don't have a clue what you're talking about.
For sure, yeah. So the medial tibial plateau, so you think your kneecap, and you go just below it, you have your patellar tendon, and then you go inside to the knee. So the inside of the knee, you have the medial tibial plateau, and a bone stress response. Basically, what that injury is that you have cortical bone, you have medullary bone. It's an injury to the medullary bone, right? So if you think of the bone as as kind of a wet structure, so you have a wet structure inside, and then you have the hard structure on the outside. So it allows for your bone to kind of flex and receive load. And a bone stress response is an injury to that medullary bone. So if the medullary bone was like a spider web filled with blood and tissue, right? You have an injury to that part, it's going to glow like really, really bright on the MRI.
So basically what that means is when bones are banging against each other like this, over time they get a stress response. They start turning white because they're trying to be like stiffened up by laying down the sclerotic bone to try to make it stronger according to the body for the stress you're putting it on.
Yes.
Recent graduate is why you're getting all of that. 20 years ago, this is why you're getting that.
If you wanted to simplify it in layman's terms, you could also hear like bone bruise. This is
Bone bruise is a great
kind of
one.
the same one.
Bone bruise, yeah, you'll hear that a lot of the NFL.
Feel it, not see it though, except on an MRI.
Yeah.
So she's basically got a bone bruise. She has tendonitis. Go for it.
Yeah. So basically, the way you heal that, right, is you have to unload the bone as much as possible. So by the book, if you want to heal a bone stress response, you're going to have to unload the joint, which means crutches for her. Well, when we spoke about that, that wasn't an option. So okay.
Love that.
So what's the next thing we can do? So let's try everything bodyweight exercises. We're going to work on the core and the hips. We're going to get those moving functionally again, right, correctly, to take the stress off the knee joint, because biomechanically down the chain, something is happening where her movement isn't efficient enough to carry the load of what she's trying to do.
In other words, she's compensating
Boom.
left and right.
Yes. The other thing you can do nutritionally, right, is you can have a positive nitrogen balance in the blood. What that means is that you can have you can supplement with calcium, vitamin D. That's going to help drive bone back, or it's going to carry the calcium through the bloodstream back to the bone and keep the bone, all that stuff in the blood. It's going to get to the area, and then you have protein in between meals to keep that nitrogen balance in the blood, so you can drive all that calcium back into the bone, so you can stimulate healing a little bit quicker.
All right.
Oh, and that's about it.
All right.
So
So
far.
she's 4 weeks in to getting worked. She signed up with a wonderful package with Justin. She's 4 weeks in. She's getting stronger. Things are functionally better. What function means is I can get it from a chair the most efficient way possible. I can sit on a chair the most efficient way possible. I can reach over my head the most efficient way possible. That's what function kind of means. So what he's going through basically rehabbing is that. What we just talked about is what else we can do is we're going to look at doing a possible, refer her out to an MD friend of ours, Dr. Goswami. He does stem cell and PRP stuff that does wonders with athletes, especially, actually anybody. But we're going to do an eval with him just to see what he thinks since we're 4 weeks out. And we're going to refocus. So the fun part, here's what we talked about. This is the best part. When we talk about rehabbing somebody who's in pain, if you're doing it correctly and fixing the function of that body and the way it moves, which is what function is, you're actually giving them a version of strength training, but not the typical, strength training you're going to do in the gym. Like the buff guy over here to my right would be doing powerlifting, like picking up fridges and stuff, throwing boulders, but basic strength training. This is one where you learn how the function works. So if I get the hips working well, the core working well, I get them all working together so it's one big unit, that's actually going to make her stronger. So that's what he's been working and focusing on, and it's doing great. She's getting better. But we're looking at it as an athlete going, okay, it's a weekend warrior athlete. How do we get her better, faster? And yes, that better works. I don't care what you say. Fits every time. So that's been the case going. So those high rocks athletes out there, the variant with them is they're going to do an event where running is part of it guaranteed, right?
Yes.
It's a 1K in between multiple things. Or
Yeah, 600 and
all the
800
rows.
meters, something like
I
that.
think there's
Varying
like 7 exercises or something like
Yeah.
that, and then there's 1,000 meters in between. I can't remember.
For those who are not familiar, it's a load, man. It's a day. So you do have to train. This is not a joke. So being 60, the only disadvantage she has is it's not that she's old. It's that she's probably had more years of bad reps than I have at 50. And that Justin and David have at 19 or 10. Or how old are you guys now?
28.
How old are you guys? 28 and
8 years old.
yeah, 8 years old. So you'd be surprised with the conversations we have. But you look at it, it's like she's just had some wear and tear, which is what we're looking at and dealing with. So with athletes like this, the best thing we can do for them is getting through a nice, like functional program where they're learning how to move better, right? Better efficiency translates out to the field, whatever sport it is you're playing. And then letting the tissue that's being overloaded, because she doesn't have a trauma per se, right?
No.
No trauma. It's
Well,
just,
so 10 years ago had a hip labor and tear.
which one? Same side,
Right.
opposite?
So opposite side.
Opposite side, there
yeah.
you go. So for those out there to understand the basic premise of compensation patterns, this is a great example. She tears her right hip, which means she's limping or unloading her right hip, right? which means all of her weight's going on the left side, which means her left leg is now supporting her whole body or most of it for over a period of time, 2, 3, 4 weeks, what have you. That neuro patterning, basically your brain sets up a pattern that's how you move now. So she no longer moves like she did prior to that hip problem. So when that happens, then she got onto her left leg and she was non-weight bearing. No, she didn't do any non-weight bearing.
No.
She just kept going.
Yeah, no surgery.
She just went for it.
So she said that, so she changed her diet. She went vegan.
Oof.
And it cleared everything up. I don't know.
There's a reason for that. Yeah, there's a reason for that.
Yeah, we can get into
Yeah,
that.
we'll touch on it, but that's another podcast. But when you think about it, like that might be 5. Religion, politics, and nutrition are equally as stressful to talk about because people really are passionate. But I'll give you the quick one. Most people that go from non-vegan to vegan in these situations, the reason they have such a wonderful response is because they generally are eating really bad. Mm-hmm. Not just, I might have some chips on the weekend or a glass of wine. We're talking like there's definitely fast food, maybe on a daily basis, and go through the rabbit hole of what that looks like, and then that's all gone. And then she inserts vegetables. So yeah, you're going to feel better. The longevity is the question, and we'll get into that one later. Yeah, but nonetheless, so what is she doing now? Nutrition-wise, have you talked about it?
Nutrition-wise, diet hasn't changed. Still vegan.
Okay.
The one thing we've been working on is trying to get more protein into the diet because that's the hard part in a vegan diet.
Perfect. So, and is it? Oh, it's so hard not to go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
I can't do it. Can't do it. We'll keep it this patient.
Maybe for next week.
So this patient, when it comes to being an athlete, athletes and being vegan don't work. I know there was a movie they made about it, but it got a little debunked. There was other stuff that's come out. It just doesn't work. The muscles need amino acids. There's no way around it. So when you have a healing athlete, right, you have to find a way, hell or high water, to get more protein in. And unfortunately, a lot of the protein sources, such as your, oh boy, here we go, soy, pea pod, whatever other cricket, whatever other things you've said out there, usually speaking, the body cannot digest 30 to 60%, depending on which study you want to uncover, of that protein coming in, which means they have to eat that much more. So relay that to her that she just has to find that way. Has she tried whey protein?
Not to my knowledge, no. So she works with her trainer, and he's also been doing her nutrition plan, and we've spoken about her nutrition struggles and like trying to get more protein. Mm-hmm. And the conversation there was that she also had some kidney issues in the past, which was another reason why she went vegan.
Okay.
And now she's worried about protein intake because she's worried it's going to affect her kidneys, which that's another rabbit hole that we could probably go down.
20 years, I'll tell you one thing, that science that came out, if you want to call it that, was probably one of the worst things that came out for people in America. The idea that your kidneys are so overloaded by having protein diets is like not really how that all works. And the other thing, so let's stick to it this way. We'll stick to patient. Mm-hmm. This is patient A. We'll stay here. Because I've had these patients, of course. We all have had them or will have them for sure. With this patient, there's a psychological component that we have to address, right? So she's 60 years old. She's hell-bent on doing this high rocks, it sounds like, which, I mean, I applaud her. Good for her, right? I would never stop that unless it was like you run the risk of really hurting yourself, right?
Yeah.
So the need to get protein is something, it's not just a need now. It's like a necessity for her not to hurt herself or make her injury worse. And most people who have injuries, they lower their diet down because their training goes down. That's the worst thing you can do. So she's trying to heal a muscle or a tendon. We had a great discussion about that earlier. Either way, amino acids are imperative. So another avenue you could try, what I did with another patient who was vegan, was actual amino acid supplementation. Yeah, I literally had them pounding because amino acids, for out there who's listening who are not sure what those are, it's basically a protein broken down into the little bitty parts that we need for our body to use. When you don't have enough circulating, your body will break down tissue or find it somewhere else. Muscles are a great place to go get it. So you've heard terms like anabolic and anabolic and catabolic. And what those are is anabolic building muscle, catabolic breaking down muscle. That's it. And so if you have somebody who's a vegan, they're generally in a catabolic state most of the time. So that's where it gets a little dangerous. So for her, see, this is great. We actually just uncovered something on a podcast during a case study that I would not have thought to ask because it wasn't my patient. I assumed you would have asked. And you got into nutrition, you're covering bases. Vegan's a big one. So that protein for you is amino acids, huge one. whey protein. The brand we use, Momentous, which is fantastic. You can do that too. That would just anything you can get her to get in that body, because that'll help her heal. And if you play that into helping her heal for this race, that'll help because most vegans have some preference that got them to being vegans, whether it be animal cruelty or political or emotional or physical or whatever. So finding out what exactly is hers is the trick. So, all right. Pardon me.
It's gonna pick it up on the mic.
Hit a button.
There we go.
Now it's yours.
Was it mine? No.
Oh, man.
Other guy with the watch.
Just a funny sidebar. We got a new voice internet phone system, so we can actually all have access to things and make things work better. But that means all our phones ring at the same time. So, anyway.
Hold on. Question. So for whey protein, that's processed from animal protein. Is
Milk.
It not?
Yeah.
Milk.
Milk. Just
Right.
the milk. Yeah.
Yeah. So if it's milk, then that's against vegan. So they wouldn't do,
Well, that's why you asked.
right?
Yeah. So
Or it's like a level of
depends on
veganism.
them. Because that's when they call themselves vegetarians. So
Right.
the crossover, and this, mind you, I'm not trying to define it right here and now. So please,
Yeah.
no frustrations towards me. It's just basically vegans all vegetable, and they generally supplement protein with some form of plant, or a pea pod. Yeah, so plant. Vegetarians will generally have eggs. Dairy's okay. So eggs and milk are fine. So they're fine with whey. Now back to the athlete performance side of things. This is more about her being healthy and healing than it is about a state of mind. Yeah. When you're talking to an athlete, you want to be healthy, you want to heal, you want to do this race. There's just certain things you're going to have to do. Yeah. And that movie really did bother me. So sorry. But anyway, yeah, we had a few so I work with a team in the, not local anymore, but local area. And I've had a couple players over the years try that, and they lasted like 2 weeks, because the demand on their body was massive, and their body could not transition on vegetables.
The vegan diet or vegetarian.
Vegan couldn't do it.
Yeah.
So
You could always ask like the level of veganism that they're into. So
that's good. 0 to 10 scale.
yeah, the 0 to 10 scale. If you want to use, I don't know, 0 to 10, but you find a level of it, because some people they'll take away, some people don't take away, some people do other things as well just to supplement their protein. I like the BCAA idea because for the most part, for most athletes, I just say get the protein in. You're gonna get it through that
One
aspect.
way or another. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But since she doesn't want meat products, she doesn't want animal type products, the BCAAs are actually not a waste of money at this point.
Yeah. Wonderful. Yep.
Yeah, I agree.
So that's it. So that was a nice twist to a case study there.
Yep.
So yeah, for you out there that are having, like, you're injured and hurt and you haven't come seen us yet, please come see us. There's no reason not to. But on the flip side of that, the simplest way is understand that you're having pain unless it's a trauma. I mean, trauma is a different animal. Break a leg, run into a wall, whatever. Everything else is pretty much cumulative stuff. So she's dealing with probably a deconditioned state in her life at some point in time, trying to recondition. High rocks has a meaning to her, so she's going to exercise now. And she's going to go through what all of us go through as athletes. I mean, I told you all the nicks and bumps and tears and stuff I've done to myself. You'd laugh and be like, do you know what you're doing, actually? I was like, maybe. Do as I say, not as I do. That's all I say. But with an athlete like this, it's a kind of a new thing for her. So she's going through normal phase stuff. So we're trying to help her correct those mistakes. And for you out there, if you have things like this going on in your world, preparing for an event, your nutrition, not going down the rabbit hole, but you're saying is a very huge part of your success. So just like a car engine, if I got an F1 Formula car, I'm not going to throw in. You ever seen the cars that run on oil? They go to restaurants and get oil on it and they put it in the car. It's not going to run on that. It's not going to work. So think of your body that way.
Yeah. So it's been, 4 weeks since you've been treating this
Been
patient?
4 weeks, yeah.
Yeah, how's she responded since then?
Yeah. So we got a repeat MRI, and there is some improvement to the bone stress injury.
Nice.
And then the radiologist also reported that the gastroc origin strain was getting a little bit better, actually much better. It wasn't as frayed. For me, I would have liked to see a little more improvement over 4 weeks, and I think nutrition would have been a big part of that.
Yeah. Helpful,
Yeah, so obviously being vegan, the protein part is going to be the hard part.
How's your fat intake?
I don't know. I didn't do a full nutrition analysis.
Well, then why'd you bring it up? Jesus. What am I
it's
going to
just
do
being-
around
Hey,
here?
we're still learning.
Anyway,
That's why they call it practice.
so here's why I bring up the question. There is a way to train an athlete through a keto-style nutrition plan, which just brings up more fat, minimizes, vegetables are fine, certain ones, and then the protein is lower. Now, I don't know if I had no success doing that in like a CrossFit style circuit training situations. Kettlebell training, I had no success. I died. But that's an option, or at least check her fat intake to make sure, because unfortunately in today's day and age, people still equate low fat diet to low body fat. And that's not really how it works. If you have extra fat in your body, you eat less fat to burn off through what you got. As you get leaner, you get more fat. Now, that being said, we have an athlete who calorically is challenged. I guarantee it, right? Fat, avocados, your nuts, just simple stuff. Butter. I love butter. Butter's the best. But you put something more in that, like butter in the coffee, or put avocados, or snack on some macaroons. Macadamia nuts, macaroons, what mine's at, cookies, so macadamia nuts, but really simple, easy, good fats, high in the omega-3s, minimize the omega-9s and omega-6s, so no almonds and things like that, and just see if we can get calories in there. So another avenue is, let's get her on a chronometer, MyFitnessPal, whatever, and just say, hey, let's track some macros. Let's just make sure you're getting at least the calories you need, because vegans, unfortunately, generally are very undercalorically fed. And then her output for training plus trying to heal, that's a trifecta, right? So there's another good area too. That's all I got on that one.
That makes sense. I feel like, we understand as doctors, like we tell a patient a bunch of stuff, and sometimes they'll follow 50.
Bro, we vomit on
Yeah,
people.
yeah.
It is like this overload.
Yeah, they'll follow like 50% of it at best. So I think
shoot, that's a high one.
yeah, that's high. And that's high.
That's a high rocks limit.
But I guess like if I was
Boom, boom. Where's it at?
right here, it's
There
far
it
away
is.
from me.
There it is.
But I believe we have to iterate, like you gotta track your macros on this one. I know with all the stuff that she's taking right now, all the things that she has to believe for what she's chosen for her diet path, tracking the macros are like you can't negotiate that one at this point, especially for her, right? So for like other strength athletes, just strength athletes in general, a lot of them just don't track, especially off season. She's about to go into a race. She kind of has to track those. At that
Well, yeah. The great thing about off-season training is you don't have to track them. You just look in the mirror.
Yep.
I'm getting plenty of calories.
Yep.
Why don't these pants fit anymore?
Especially around this time of year.
100%.
God bless. I love the holidays. I'm so excited for this. Although my only complaint I will say is I walked into Costco October 28th or 29th.
Christmas stuff?
27th. Yeah, Christmas stuff. And I'm like, man, let me enjoy.
Dude, you're late.
Let me enjoy one thing at a time.
They have it in there in August.
That's insanity. My kids love Halloween. Like, why would you ruin it? Anyway, all right. So, out there, high rocks athletes, I don't care what your age is. The fact that she's 60 only means that she's got more wear and tear in her tires. That's it. Everybody else out there are 25, 30. Even Dan, our resident high rocks guy, is 24?
It's
25 now?
25, 26.
Oh, he's getting so old. They grow so fast. But even you'll see him eating constantly. Like, he's so conscientious of what he has to get in his body to make sure training works. So, yeah, everybody out there, make sure you don't forget nutrition. I'm so glad we got into the nutrition side of that. That was good.
It's a big one.
That's something that's often overlooked in clinics, is you'll come in with the pain in the knee, pain in the shoulder, pain in the neck, pain in the back. SHARC, sustainable health. That's what we do here. We're trying to actually dig deeper, not just into your owie and what hurts, but figure out what are the parts of your life we can help correct, fix, treat, get better, whatever. So, all right, that was pretty good. I like that one.
Yeah, and like Doc T said, I was happy that you jumped into the nutrition there. Like, I don't think you would have been able to do that if you didn't take a longer visit, right? So with us at SHARC, we at least take an hour visit, hour and a half, especially on your first one, just to really understand everything. So I know in just traditional clinics, at least when we've interned, it's, hey, get them in, get them out 30 minutes, right? So do you find an advantage outside of just what I talked about with having that hour visit with that patient here?
Absolutely. I feel like I'm never rushed. I feel like I can really dive deep into what the patient is really saying. Because there's a level of what a patient will tell you. Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, what do you mean by that? And just keep being overly curious and seeing how deep can we get and how much does this mean and how much is this affecting you? Yeah. And that's a big part of
sounds like he was nosy to me.
Yeah, right. It's a big part of how
Leave me alone.
Really form those plans of care. Mm-hmm. Because then if I know exactly what you're trying to do, what your goal is, what success looks like, then I can give you a better roadmap of what does success look like and what are the checkpoints on the way.
And I feel like I've seen that on paper somewhere.
Somewhere.
Where have I seen that? That is well said, both of you. Yes, well said, both of you. I like that. That is the thing. You're right. Most places don't get that, or don't choose to. I shouldn't say that. That's the wrong way to say it. They just don't do it that way.
Yeah.
And I thank you for bringing it up. It is true. And Justin is like, you touch base with the person's real desire, like what they really want to accomplish, and that is hard. That is hard. I made a joke about it because I'm not the guy. You try to drag that out of me. Good luck. It's like I'm not going to be a sharer there.
Yeah.
But it is a very big part of it, especially in the world of like, we got to come up with a better name than Weekend Warriors. We just have to come up with a more engaging, like Weekend Warriors, but they train their butts off. Like Justin just had a client here before we started this. He's dropped 45 pounds.
Yep.
He's a tennis player.
Yep.
Just decided to get a nutritionist, come work out with Justin. Doing great, crushing it, feeling great. Now his entire tennis crew is not happy about that, but because he's already, I think, pretty good compared to them. So it's I don't want to say nothing, but so it's a vital piece for us.
Back to my computer on top of it.
Oh, apparently I'm too close now. I just project better than everybody else. That's all. So, but it's a good thing because you really want to. If you're going to take time to go see a doctor, you're going to spend hours doing stuff with them, doing stuff out of the office, whatever. You better understand each other. So sorry to cut you off.
No, yeah, for sure. And then one last thing that I'll add is that you might go to your in-network provider. If you've been to a provider before, and they just kind of provide pain relief. Yeah. And don't get me wrong, we're really flipping good at getting someone out of pain. But what we want to focus on here is getting down to the root cause. Why are you having that pain? Why did all this start happening? Yeah. And if we can figure that out, then even clearer is our plan of care going forward.
Yeah, makes it so much easier. Yeah. It's kind of crazy when you think about this. Clarity. What a concept. Yeah. I'm going to fix you. Come here, I have pain. I'm going to fix you. Clarity on how we're going to do this, what it looks like, map it out. Let's talk. Yeah. Make sure we cover our bases, which imaging for her, nutrition for her is a big one. But yeah, I think it's the totality of the person. Yeah. And then you spending some time with them and just getting to know them. Yeah, it helps. And trust me, when you know that stuff about them, like I'm a background in CrossFit, I understand their mindsets, right? I understand where their head's at. So when I talk to them, I know the kind of person I'm already dealing with. Now I just have to figure out this person specifically. Yeah. So, all right, that was good. I've got nothing more on this one. That's the closed case to me.
But yeah, she's improving. So
she's improving. Great. Yeah. We've progressed her to body weight exercises. We're going to see how she responds to that. And then we'll start loading her.
One more thing we're going to do. What else? We just talked about it today.
3 letters.
Yes. BFR.
Yeah. BFR. I think with that avenue too, like we were talking about, like treatment plans, is Doc T, is there anything that you would, outside of BFR, anything you would treat with this patient? Like anything you'd give her? Not necessarily the muscles you'd hit, but anything in terms of rehab.
Honestly, with the fact that Justin's been here for almost 2 years or over 2 years now, David's been here 3. Yep. Most of what I'm going to say, they're already doing. There's little things all come in, like try this or try that, only because I have the advantage of you haven't tried it yet. Yep. Okay, let's give it a shot. So BFR just came up today, and have you tried that? Nope. Let's go. I mean, So that's really it. I mean, hydration's always a big deal, of course. How long is a Hyrox event?
For my athletes that are running it, they're trying to come in at like under 115, I think.
So we're about an
like
hour.
120, 115.
Okay. Yeah. So one of the things we'll talk about in another podcast altogether is the readiness, preparedness, hydration, things of that nature. So I was an endurance coach for about 3 or 4 years, so we get into a lot of that stuff. And I'm going to get real technical, like literally at hour 1, hour 2, hour 4, like how the body works. But for her, hydration is not as important during the race, definitely prior. So the 4 days prior up, make sure she has a thing. The one thing, I love this too, is she going to supplement with anything for the race? Gels, goos, pre-workout?
Not that no.
Sour Patch Kids.
Yeah.
Sour Patch Kids.
Yeah, straight up.
Swedish fish. Okay. Funny story about one of the players. Side note. We're at our old facility down here in Costa Mesa. He's on our team again. Came in, grabs a handful, and I'm talking a Monster Man handful of Swedish fish. Into the pocket, takes one out and eats it. Says, "What's up, Doc?" Walks in to go lift weights. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's not recommended, by the way. That is not recommended. No, not by any doctor, I would imagine, on the planet. But I was like looking at him going, did you just, and you're going to, okay. So the point of that story is you want to make sure whatever it is she does, hydration, nutrition, everything she's planning for pre-race, she's doing it before the race. So you try it first. In other words, you try that plan, then you compete in a pseudo race and see how your body responds. Don't try something new on race day.
No, you don't want to do
yeah.
that. Keep it consistent.
Yeah.
Keep it simple. If
Simple. The KISS principle
Yeah.
applies in more
Everywhere.
ways than one to
Oh,
so
yeah.
many things. But to David's question, or Dr. David, sorry, Doc. No, I think VFR would be the next thing. Everything else I've heard and we talked about, outside of getting some of the nutrition stuff figured out, both adding calories and then tracking calories. I think you're doing great.
Sweet.
The fact that we don't often get a patient that can get an image or imaging done, and then 4 weeks later do it again,
Yep.
and then 3 weeks later do it again, because insurance won't pay for it. People don't want to pay $400, $500, $600 3 or 4 times. So the fact that she's able to do that gave us like the advantage, right?
For sure.
She may say she feels better, but does the tissue? I mean, she's moving better, so she's going to feel better. But is the tissue coming along with that? And this actually proves what we think and what we do. We've chosen to correct all of her mechanics that were not good, and in doing so, because she's not resting, she's still working out, right?
Yep.
Yeah, she's still doing,
she's backed off like 2 days. So like the one big thing we cut out is runs.
Yep.
No run.
But I promise you, from pure experience over 20 years, I have trained hundreds of people for half marathons and marathons, and they barely ran. The running part is not the hard part when you're not a 220 marathoner. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I
If
love
you're-
telling patients that.
Oh, they're like, what? If you're doing 3.5 hour marathons, trust me, there's a lot of ways around just running to train. But so we just took out running, but we're still moving the knee joint, moving the hip joint, moving the ankle joint. Like the joints are still moving. So in theory, there's still stress there. But because we've done what we believe to be the best thing is correct the way she moves, the imaging proves we've actually got that tissue to calm down. It's not being loaded in a compensation pattern anymore. I just figured this out right this second. Like I said, valedictorian, definitely a B plus A minus student, smarter than me. So yeah, I'm a little slower, but that was pretty cool though. And I'm like, you don't get those, you don't get that very often.
No.
That's really cool. Yeah, I'm actually excited now. I want her to do another one in 3 weeks. Make it happen.
Another MRI.
Yeah, let's report this back 3 weeks. Find out what's going on.
That'd be fun to see.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. She's
That'd be
probably
sick.
gonna look at you like you're nuts, but she's probably curious. It's free. You imagine we have free MRIs? Oh.
Yeah.
I'd be curious about that. Yeah, I don't think I'd do anything truly different from what you're doing. If anything, it would be just like in the beginning, it would have been switch up some of the workouts a little bit, but that's about it. I would have taken the same path.
For sure.
What's the name of that in training when you switch it up? Not periodization. but
Randomization.
Randomization. Is that it?
It was
It
either
kinda sounds like
randomization or a what's the other word?
I feel like there's
I
one
can't-
word I can't get. And somebody out there right now is like screaming. Is like, this is what it is.
I'll
I'm
say
like,
this
"Guys."
much: I'm really bad with the names. I just know how to do it. So
Exactly.
you just switch it up.
Variation, it's something. Anyway, I don't want to spend too much time on this and really bore you guys to death. So yeah, that's where we're at. I was good. I mean,
Yeah.
Dr. David, you got macros? Anything else you do?
No, honestly, I was taking the same path that Justin was.
we're on-
Like maybe in the beginning, just to offload the knee, because with the bone stress response, you still have to do some offloading of some kind.
Yeah.
So I probably, instead of running, maybe would have put in a variation of like high intensity kettlebell swings, a bunch of them, or we put them on the rower, so we're just not pounding that knee. Just
So-
different ways.
Interesting. So it's funny. Both of those things you mentioned are hip hinge related.
Yeah.
So this is, again, when you come into the office, this is why we need an hour. If we treat you like any old knee patient and we haven't assessed your hip hinge or how you control your legs or how you control your limbs, if you move like a baby giraffe or you look like a professional athlete, how do you move? If we can't assess that, and Dr. David was a normal clinic, is like, 20 minutes, 15 minutes, bam, 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 let's do kettlebell swings instead of running for now. And she leaves the office and she starts doing kettlebell swings and now her back hurts.
Yep.
Well, how'd you hurt your back? I don't know. Let me see you do kettlebell swing. You're like, oh my, okay, we should not give those to you. So don't guess, assess. That's the best way to look at it. I hate those type of phrases, but that's really what it is. So we don't guess, we assess you. We need to know. So that's good though.
Yeah.
That's good. That really does explain a lot of why we do what we do.
Yep. Gotta love the VoIP.
I keep getting looks. They're not 100% on board with this thing yet. But man, when it works really well. There it is. I love that. Could be my favorite thing of all of this. I'm going to try
There's a
to
reason
find.
why it's over there.
Yeah. So anyway, we like to joke here, just so you guys know out there, we do take this stuff very seriously. That's why we're talking about this patient. We get together like this all the time and chat about all kinds of patients and situations and all kinds of stuff, because no one person can know everything at all times. So collectively, when you got a group, we got 3 other PTs. We have about 6, 7 docs here. It's a nice collective to talk and chat. It's a great place to come into. Anybody locally for fun, come on by, check it out. But this case patient, we're going to talk about her in 4 weeks.
Yeah, let's do it.
About race ends, we're gonna get the 411. That's old school for information for anybody who's over 40.
Yellow book days.
Yellow book. Yes, I had those. Oh, geez. Sometimes it just fits. But yeah, we'll give you guys an update. So yeah, that'll be fun. I'm very excited to see if she can get imaging again just pre-race. That would be fascinating. So, but that's a big one. I mean, it's mindset on a patient, an athlete. And again, I hate the weekend warrior. We got to come up with a better term. Semi-pro. No. Yeah, we'll figure it out. But yeah, that's all I got, man. I've said that like 5 times, but then they bring up something else kind of cool. So anything else?
No, I feel like we've covered this case for where it's at right now. You've done a re-exam, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So we've done everything at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's anything that I've learned from this moment and everything with you guys too, you can't challenge time. Sometimes you kind of have to wait for it to do its thing.
Yeah, healing. I'm not a big fan of that either.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
I'm firmly against that idea.
Yep.
That's probably one of our biggest obstacles with our patients.
100%. And that's
natural history of it.
Yeah, it's funny. And that's no different than us.
Yeah.
Yeah. The one thing I had a new patient come in, this is just purely conversation piece, 2 days ago. And he came from a referral source that's not a normal referral source for us. So he comes in and we're talking back and forth and he works out and so forth. And he tweaked his elbow and his tricep, did it while he was bench pressing. And in the back of my head, what am I going to ask? Did you finish the workout? What did he say? Yeah. I said, you're in the right place. Only because we all do the same thing.
Yeah.
I tweaked my back 2 years ago. I still have issues with it because I had to finish the workout faster than I did the last time. There was no need. There's no medals. There's nobody calling, knocking my door, no sponsors. That's just how my mind's wired. So in this clinic, we're all wired the same way. Our patients, we get you, man. We understand. So when someone says at 60, who's a vegan, who's got a hip thing, who's got a calf thing, has a race in 4 weeks, can I do it? We're like, hell yeah. We'll figure out a way. We'll find a way.
Oh, yeah.
But at the same time, as we're enablers, we're doctors.
Yeah.
So we're going to get more imaging done. We're going to check out, make sure that she cannot further hurt herself, truly hurt herself, like break something doing this race. So we can advise her and consult with her intelligibly. But we're going to have a lot of fun during that process.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So now we can get case closed.
Case closed.
Case closed.
Yeah.
We're done.
Cool. Natural music.